Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. So today's going to be a rather quick video, but I just wanted to share with you guys 3 of the biggest things that allowed me to progress further in the game without having to have like long grinds associated with them. So we're not talking about like Great Hall development. Obviously, you know, if you max out your Great Hall, you're going to progress further in the game because those stats apply everywhere. Also, some of the more basic tips. I mean, some of these tips might be basic to some of you guys, but you know, putting defensive gear on your attacking base champions to help them survive longer, like that sort of stuff we're not going to review in today's video. These are just 3 things that I started doing, 3 kind of habits or routines that I started getting into the flow with more recently actually in this game. Well, maybe not for all 3, but at least for 2 of them. More recently that Divine Crit Set. Come on, Player, I don't want this, man. You're ruining my video with your pay-to-win advertisements or whatever, pop-ups. But no, in all sincerity, guys, these are 3 things that I've been doing for, you know, either a while or more recently that have really dramatically impacted how I'm able to do in Faction Wars, which is where I'm focused right now in the game. But it doesn't matter if it's Faction Wars or trying to clear level 20 of a dungeon for the first time or Doom Tower if you're watching this video in the future. These tips all apply to every area of the game that you're struggling for progression inside Raid. So number 1, right, is probably my biggest tip. And again, it's something that I've never mentioned in over a year here on the video, but it's something that, you know, I'm sure a lot of you guys already do. But let's just look at, you know, whatever, Lizard Man, right? So let's say I was struggling with Lizard Man, which I'm not. It's actually one of the easier crypts, but let's pretend I was, right? A1 cycling is such a huge part of this game when it comes to beating areas that you've never beat before or progressing, getting past a plateau inside the game. What is A1 cycling? It's when the opponents are close to dead, like right now, maybe a little bit earlier, you stop, you take it off auto attack, and you can see off auto, right? And then we're gonna switch to only using A1s, right? And ideally, we actually need it way quicker than we did, right? You had to catch that a little bit earlier here. But the idea here is to have all of your cooldowns on all of your champions fresh and reset going into the next wave, okay? So that means when almost all the opponents are dead on your first wave and your second wave before you get to the boss or wherever you're kind of targeting, you want to have all of your skills totally off cooldown, right as we see here. Now with Dracomorph, we can go with the A3, Baleful Eye, and apply the weaken and the decreased defense to all of the enemies. And then we have Poison, he's in Relentless Gear, and then we have Poison, and then ideally, I would be landing the Provoke from the Invincible Shell of Krisk as well, but I didn't A1 cycle long enough, so I still have 1 turn to go. But essentially, guys, you get the point. I would put it back on auto, I'd sit back, and again, these are for areas I just happen to, you know, have really good teams for these 2 faction wars that are open right now for this video. But again, I would stop right here. 2 champions left. They both have a ton of HP. Perfect. Let's just continue to A1 cycle with against the enemy who has the highest turn meter, so we can make sure we deplete the turn meter, and then let's switch off to let's switch off to the second enemy. And again, want to be using the A1s of all of my champions here as long as I possibly can, so by the time we get to the boss, again, we have all of our skills, as you can see, on cooldown again. A1 cycling is not just for Faction Wars. It's going to be useful in any area of the game where there are multiple rounds, which are almost everywhere in the game, right? Aside from Clan Boss and Spider's Den, but it's really important, and it's helped me tremendously, right? Even Nightmare Campaign, A1 cycling in between waves is just going to be something that you want to go ahead and at least try out, okay? So having all of your skills available when you go into any single round is going to help you guys out a ton. So A1 cycle any area of the game where you really need, you know, you're really struggling to progress on. So basically all faction wars essentially, right? So I do that in all of my faction wars that I am either struggling on or faction wars that are borderline, okay? Especially when you're trying to get 3 stars eventually in faction wars, or again, clearing level 20 dungeon for the first time. You're gonna want to make sure you're A1 cycling. The second one is a pretty obvious one. It's something that we talked about a lot on the channel, but I still have to mention, look for champions, and Gerptuck is missing his shield here, but look for champions that have a high base HP, such as Mountain King, right? So Mountain King's one, he's a legendary character, but there's plenty of rares and epic champions that have 20k plus HP, right? Even Stag Knight is a debuffer, but give him extra utility on your team. He has over 20k HP. Throw him in a shield set. So for every area of the game that you're struggling with, or even if you're not struggling, even if you can already clear a level 20 dungeon, still take your best or your highest HP champion, put them inside a shield set. That shield is going to be based 30% of their HP on all allies for 3 turns, as you can see here on the screen. And what that's going to give you the ability to do, even again if you're not struggling in that area, it's going to allow you to put more damage dealers on your team in place of support champions, thereby making your runs more efficient and fast as well. So definitely have at least one shield champion on every team, and shield right now is really popular also in the arena against kind of blender teams or against teams that are likely to go first, right? Speed is a paid component inside Raid Shadow Legends. Let's just say it. Let's just put it out there. You pay for speed stats inside this game. But a savvy player can get around that without spending hundreds of dollars every time a speed set comes into the shop. You can just play smarter, not harder on your wallet, right? Go ahead and put obviously you don't all have Mountain Kings, but put a high HP champion inside a shield set, and then you'll be able to withstand the first shot on those Skull Crowns or whoever's attacking you, and then you go second and you win that way, okay? So when they zig, you zag. But no matter where you're facing in the game, no matter where you're focusing on, where you're stuck, where you're not stuck, consider a shield set, farm Fire Knight, invest in at least having a couple shield champions for each of, or one shield champion for each of your team should be your goal. Aside from Clan Boss, obviously 3 rounds isn't really going to matter that much, but shield sets and shield buffs in general are one of the most powerful things you can have in terms of help in progression or just in optimization of your teams in so many different areas of the game. So shield set is tip number 2. Make sure you're using it. And it took me a while, but you guys will get there. You'll get there with the shield sets, one champion at a time. The thing to be looking for in any shield artifact that you farm in Fire Knight is HP percentage. When you farm a shield set, a shield artifact, look for the substats and look for HP percentage and be very, very more apt to keep those pieces. Again, shield set is based on HP. You're putting it on a high HP champion, meaning that HP scales well on them anyway. So be on the lookout, guys, for HP percentage on all of your shield gear, the number 1 most important substat on shield artifacts, okay? And then the third tip is a basic one, but again, I was talking to some high-level players, and I was just like, dude, how do you beat, this? Or, how would you, contend with this? And their answer, more often than not, was something that I didn't really love to hear because it costs silver. It can cost up to 1 million silver to go ahead and do this, but it's sometimes what you need to do, and that is gear swapping. Tip number 3 for progression is gear swapping, right? And I mentioned this in a previous video, but I was asking another content creator, Manable, how he cleared Dwarf 21 3 stars. And he's like, dude, I put all my best gear on Molly, on Molly Tankard. And of course, you have to have that champion, and that's just one example. But if you're struggling in a faction war, if you're struggling in a level 20 dungeon, no matter where it is, you're going to have to get comfortable eventually in swapping out gear. And just do it strategically. Don't do it every single time because it costs a lot of silver, and silver is a very difficult a resource to come about inside Raid Shadow Legends. It's tough. Everything costs silver. Everything. Heck, pulling a champion out of a void, a shard rather, costs silver. Ascending them costs silver. Mixing potions everything costs silver. Removing an artifact costs silver. So take that into consideration. Don't be dumb about it. Don't waste all your silver in gear swapping. But if you have one area that you're just this close on beating, go ahead and, write down old school on a notepad. Okay, this gear originally belonged to Trunda. I'm going to go ahead for this, for this faction. I'm going to put it on Husk. I'm going to put all this gear on Husk. and I write down what gear I put on one character to another, so I remember to return that gear eventually, so that way my gear's not spread around like haphazardly all throughout my champions. But you're gonna have to get, unless you're the biggest whale in the world, gonna have to get comfortable in swapping out your best gear on your account when you want to reach milestone achievements inside the game. Again, not for everybody, but it's certainly a tip that a lot of players use when they meet that you know, when rubber meets the proverbial road, where they're like, okay, I can't beat this, I can't do this. Gonna have to get, you know, comfortable with the idea of gear swapping. Something I resisted for a long time, but it's helped me out in a couple faction war crypts as well, and I only have 2 or 3 to go. Anyway, guys, that's gonna do it. Like I said, pretty quick video comparatively today. Let me know, is there a tip that you guys have that I didn't cover? A big tip besides just spend money to help you progress in Raid Shadow Legends? Let me know in the comments below, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys.